Hey crafty people! Welcome back to my channel, and in case you're new here, I'm Sarah, also known as Craft Nerd because I'm a nerd who loves to craft. I do paper crafting, card making, junk journaling, and mixed media art. Let's get crafting! Okay, so I've got some of the Holtz Idea-ology paper flowers, which just as an FYI are going to be discontinued. So now is the time to get them if you would like them. And I've pulled out Distress Spray Stain in Twisted Citron, Villainous Potion, and a little Pumice Stone, which I thought I had grabbed Lost Shadow, which I may not actually have in a spray. But that's okay, we'll use the Pumice Stone. Now I'm going to start by wetting my flowers so that the ink will spread more readily. And we're just going to do a little green on these. And then I'm going to add a little Pumice Stone, get them a little... Ooh, that's a little bit more than I wanted. Let's add a little bit more green. And these need to dry, so I'm just going to set those guys aside. And I'm going to clean up my mess. And I'm going to do the same thing for this bunch, only do the purple. So, spritz. A little bit of spray. I'm going to add a little bit more water to dilute the Villainous Potion because that stuff's intense. And add a little Pumice Stone. Kind of think I may want to grab a little Pumice Stone Distress Oxide. And I do have Lost Shadow spray. Let's add a little Lost Shadow. Well, that's not doing much. But I grabbed Hickory Smoke Distress Oxide. Let's add a little of that. And I'm gonna set these aside to dry and have a bit of a cleanup. All right, so I want to grungy our shelves a little bit. So I've got the Tim Holtz hammer to add some texture. Okay, so I did a whole bunch of banging and apparently I can't see it all that well on camera, but what I am gonna do now is roughed up the wrong end on this one. Is grab some Walnut Stain and add it to kind of highlight. And actually, that's not even dark enough. Let me grab some black soot. Do that. And get a paintbrush. And so I've got a thing of water and my paintbrush. I'm gonna mix these up. And I want it fairly wet. And what I'm gonna do is kind of get more water on here. Big time. Where's my sprayer? I just kind of want it get into those crevices we created. Grab a paper towel and kind of wipe some of that off. And I wiped way too much of that off. I'm gonna leave that to dry. Okay, those need to dry, those need to dry. Lots of stuff needs to dry. I think I'm gonna pull out my alcohol inks because there are a few things that need alcohol inking. So let's do that next. Okay. So I've got glass bubbles that I want to turn green, and I've just got a little cup, and I'm going to use some citrus alcohol ink to color our bubbles. I'm going to add a little bit of isopropyl alcohol just to get that moving around a little bit. and send them flying everywhere. Probably should have put a lid on it. Those are looking good. I need to find somewhere to dump them out so that they can dry, where they're not going to go everywhere and not going to make a mess. Just going to dump them out onto a lid, and that should give them space so that they can dry out. Those out of the way. Now I also got a couple of the Holtz Idea-ology mushrooms, and I want to give them a little bit of color. And I think I'm just going to use a Q-tip, and let's start with, I'm going to use a little bit of the new color smudge on the stalks just to grunge them up a little bit more. It's subtle. It'll be more noticeable when we do the tops. And then for one of the tops, we're going to go green. So there, that's a green mushroom. And then we're going to do a purple one, because why not? So I've got Purple Twilight. A little brighter than I want, so I think I may drop a little bit of smudge on. So there we go, we now got a green and purple mushroom. And I think until everything is dry, which I've got various bits and pieces drying, there's not much more I can do. So I'm gonna take a bit of a break. I'll be back. Okay, I was just dry fitting our wall in and it's looking good. My only problem is I think it's a little too light. I should have gone with a darker gray background. So what I'm gonna do is use the paints again to kind of try and dribble through the, between the Crypt paste. Yeah, and this spot got a little glumpy. That'll mostly be covered by the shelves that are gonna go here, so I'm not too worried about the fact that it's, the seam's kind of wonky and stuff. That should all get covered up, but let's go ahead and just add a little loose paint. And we're just gonna use all the colors I have out. Brush Corduroy, Vintage Photo, Hickory Smoke, and Black Soot. No, Ground Espresso. Nope, Walnut Stain. Ooh, I know what colors I have, really I do. And some Black Soot. Just a very small dab of Black Soot. And I'm gonna grab a paintbrush and some water. And I'm just gonna mix up a loose paint and kind of do it across here and just kind of spray it so that it hopefully like goes down. And it's not getting into the cracks at all. So much for that idea. All right, let's try this because I'm losing all the lovely texture from the Crypt paste, but what I can do next is hopefully, right, that didn't work much at all, did it? Let's see if I do that. This idea is not working at all. It's getting it a little darker, but not. Kind of wondering if what I want, maybe instead of the paint, is crayon. These brushes to push the crayon into the crevices. Let's see. Let's try it. Okay, that's not working either. I think I'm just gonna have to deal with the fact that I can get it a little bit darker. All right, I'm just gonna go and try and get a little bit of paint on the grout and not cover up all the lovely grit paste. So yeah, I'm gonna do this all over the piece. I'll be back. So I like the color better. I've gone ahead and die cut the window out a bunch more times. And for the last one, I ran it through using the Tim Holtz mini wood grain embossing folder that's, you know, came out for using with the Paper Village sets. So I wood grain embossed that. We're gonna add a little ink to it to highlight the emboss bits, but that's gonna be our window. So let's go ahead and glue everybody together. And we're gonna use Barely Arts glue because my art glitter glue is over on a tray table in front of the couch because I was crafting in front of the TV last night. All right, let's grab a piece of paper and some scorched timber, I think, and a dauber, and just lightly go over top to hopefully catch the raised areas. All right, let's glue that onto that piece. Like, I thought I cut it out 4 times. I did. So let's glue the 4th one on. And I did it 4 times to add more dimension and presence to it. So yeah, that gives it more presence than if I just left it flat. All right, let's see, what do we need next? We need a window and some tin foil, and I'll explain the tin foil. Let me grab those things, I'll be right back. The tin foil is gonna go back here to help reflect the light through. So we're gonna go ahead and just glue this down. Actually, what I need to do is grab some alcohol ink and get it a little bit more of a night sky. And I had put this in place and traced so I'd make sure I got it at least where I needed it for sure. And it's definitely a little bit bigger, but that's quite all right. You're not gonna see it once this gets placed in here like so, but that definitely needs to not be bright silver. All right, let me grab an alcohol ink marker, and it's B39. So that is our night sky. And then I've grabbed, these are the Tim Holtz Idea-ology Transparencies, and it's Halloween 2024. And I want to have a broken window. Ooh, because that's not glued in yet. So, what we'll do is glue the transparency and glue the window and have a piece big enough that it will attach our window in place, if that makes sense. So I don't want it to be the whole thing. So look at that. I was thinking maybe I kind of like that for the piece. So let's get it placed how we like it. Flip it, and then grab a pair of scissors. I also have the ones from last year, but these are kind of grungier. The last year ones are completely clear, the transparencies. And now I could go and alcohol ink them, but I figured why not use the ones I have that are already set to go. And so we're just gonna do that. And I'll trim this bit off, and we'll just glue around and put it in place. So I'm gonna add glue to the back of the base piece and to the back of my window, because the transparency is gonna be what holds my window in place. I got glue on the transparency. Let me get a paper towel so we can wipe that off. And I'm not too, woo, let's do that. And then I am gonna grab tape. Yeah, I got a little glue on it and made it a little cloudy, but since we're going for grungy witch's tower lab, whatever it's called, I'm not too worried about that. And see, there we go. And then what we're gonna do is when we put our lights on, we're gonna have our lights add an eerie glow around our window area. And apparently, depending on where the lights are, they might add some creepy glow through the piece. That'll be interesting. Next step is we need to figure out our layout for our piece, put our shelves in, and then string the lights, because I want to run them behind here from the various places we're gonna have lights. So that's our next step. Now, I got a witch's broomstick, but I decided this, in relation to the cauldron, way too big. So we are going to trim down the broomstick. Just taking scissors and trimming off, because I realized I probably wasn't on camera for that. So that less broom, more stick. Now I'm also going to spray a little water on the bottom of this and kind of crunch it up to get it a little more rough and tumble broomsticky. So that's gonna go there. Our cauldron's gonna go there. And we're gonna have lights in the cauldron. Then we've got our shelves. And I think I wanna put the first one there. This is gonna be the fun part. Okay, let's grab our Aleene's The Ultimate Glue is what we're gonna use. I am going to apply some to the edge. Stick our shelf here-ish. Make sure it's flush over here. I'm gonna take it off and let that glue and this glue dry. Actually, let's do the other one as well. I'm just gonna stick that there. And for spacing on the next shelf, I'm gonna grab my tallest bottle, because as long as the tallest bottle fits, all the rest will fit. So let's do, we put that bottle there. The next shelf should go here. So let's do a line of glue. And the reason I'm doing this is because glue sticks better to itself than other materials. So by doing that, letting the glue dry completely, we can come back in and attach it, and it'll be a stronger bond than if we just glued it straight. And since these are going to be defying gravity a little bit, they will be also glued to the side. When I go to put it in, I'm going to put glue on there and get that on the side as well. I don't know that there's anything else we can do while we're letting that dry, because we've got to string the lights through this before we can put this piece in. So I'm gonna leave this for now, go clean up my space a little bit because I cannot function in it anymore. And then I'll be back. Okay, so let's go ahead and glue our shelves on. And of course, my dog is getting antsy-pantsy because I sat down to start filming. He has impeccable timing. Although he's like wandered off into the other room, so. Let's do this one. And then I'm gonna leave this sit for a little while so that the glue can dry completely. And I think to help ensure they stay upright, we're gonna put some bottles in place and let those dry, and then I'll be back. Okay, moment of truth. Ta-da! Wonder how level they are. Well, that's standing on there pretty good. That's going on pretty good. All right, so next step is to figure out our holes for running our lights. And what I'm planning on doing is, so these are Tim Holtz tiny lights, and so this will pop open. If I can get it to pop open. So you can replace the batteries. And there are our lights. And so what my plan is, I'm going to attach it on here, but we're going to disguise it. I was originally thinking I was gonna make this like a book, but that just seems like a huge book. So we're gonna disguise it as like a pile of books. What we need to do is figure out where our holes are gonna need to go to run our wires. So first hole needs to go here. Let's see, can I get it through with the pokey tool? I don't think so. I think I'm gonna have to get, oh. Yes, although what made that cracking sound? Might have been the whatchamacallit. All right, we're gonna do this and just keep twirling and twirling to open up the hole. And in fact, I think I may come in with scissors and just trim that piece out of the way so that there's less that we're dealing with when widening the hole, to make sure it's big enough for our lights to go through. Lights through the hole. All right, the lights will fit through. I just don't know, the tail end of the cord might be a little difficult. So we're gonna string the lights through. I also want to, actually, before we get much further, let's go ahead and, all right, see, yeah, that part needs a bigger hole because I want all this to go behind. So let's stick our tool in, widen that hole, hopefully get that through. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. None of the other holes are gonna need to be this big, and I'm gonna have to reattach that shelf as I am doing this. Come on, go through the hole, through the hole. Ah, yay, okay, so that shelf's gonna need fixing. All right, I'm going to put it so that the part where you can replace the batteries is down so we can glue stuff to disguise it on top, but let's get Velcro dots. I'm gonna grab a couple of Velcro dots, and I just picked these up off of Amazon, and they've got one side that's clear and then the fuzzy side. I'm gonna put the fuzzy side on the bottom of our piece, and then the clear side can sit there, and it'll just help keep it in place. What we're gonna end up doing is attaching stuff around it, but what I want is you're able to do this and this. So this part I'm gonna keep loose so that you can replace the batteries. So there's our shelf and our lights. Now, I'm gonna put one of the bottles at the end of the shelf over here, and I wanna light it up. So we're gonna want a couple holes over here so those lights can come through. And they don't need to be as big as the first hole because all we're poking through is the lights. So we're gonna do one hole and then another hole a little bit over. And we're gonna thread our lights through. That hole needs to be a little bit bigger. Probably not that big, but we'll kind of squish it down from the other side once we get our lights through. So yeah, this is going to be very fiddly to do the lighting that I want to do. And I'm just going to tape this piece down so it doesn't get in the way and it stays, you know, put. Let me grab some tape. And I looked it up. It's Night of Mystic Arts is the Halloween event that I'm doing in Castleberry. And these have wires on them, so I'm just gonna kind of squish the wire up so that we have a light, so that we're gonna have a lovely green glow behind the bottle over here. All right, so that's going there, that's going there. We're gonna have a bottle like there. So I want to disguise, and we're gonna put stuff on top of this so that will hide any of the wire that's currently showing. So we're just gonna leave one bulb out. Now let's widen this just a little bit more so that the bulbs fit through. When we turn on the lights, turn them on for a sec, there'll be a greenish glow behind the bottle on the shelf. Okay, I'm gonna turn this back off because they're kind of blinding. We're now gonna come up here. So we're gonna come up here and run all along this back shelf. I am going to tape down the wire as we go along, just so that it doesn't get all over the place kind of thing. Keep things a little neat on the back side. All right, now stick this through. What I need to do is, I think I decided I wanted like 1, 2, 3, 4 lights for the cauldron, which is going to be down here. And we want lights around the window. So as I'm trying to work this out, I want to make sure I have 4 that come out over here. So I need a few around the window, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. These need to come out here. Let's put that hole in. Let's figure out where the cauldron's going, put that hole in, and then pull those 4 through. So if we are, the broom's going here and our cauldron's gonna be here, I'm gonna put that hole right there. And what I'm gonna do is take a piece of low-tack tape and put it here to keep that from pulling through. So I've got my 4 that I'm also gonna go ahead and roll into a tight little ball. Well, a circle-y curve kind of thing. Because that's gonna sit inside our cauldron like so. And then we're gonna put our alcohol ink dyed baubles on top and glue them in place so they'll hold the lights in place. So that we've got like that. So this becomes we want to go around the window, and I think we're just gonna have that random light there. Let's see how this looks against our backdrop. Sorry if I'm like all over the place. This is one of those things that's kind of hard. All right, we know this light's going here, so let's tape it down. But yeah, I think that's gonna work. I may need to like put a little like paste along here just to fill in the little spots that are showing, but that's a fiddle with later kind of thing. All right, so what we're gonna do is turn these lights off because they're kind of blinding when you look right at them. We're gonna tape our bulbs down. So this is what the back looks like. Not the prettiest thing, but we've got enough give on this so that when we pull it off the Velcro dot, we can do that, flip it over, and change the light bulb. And stick that back on. Now up here, we've got our lights, and since we've got it on a wire, what I'm just gonna do is kind of pinch the wires into place so that it's gonna be behind the stuff we put on here. Kind of make sure I distribute the lights out a little bit. That is a large glob of lights, but it should all get covered by the jars we put on so that you don't actually see the lights. And if I need to, and what I may do is put a piece of like cheesecloth over it, or I'm gonna stick some moss around, so I may put some moss on there. All right, so we've got our lights on. I'm trying to decide what we need to do next, so let me have a bit of a think here for a sec. Okay, so I think we're about ready to glue this in. Only thing is, I can't decide if I want a moon or not showing in the window. So let's pull this out. We're gonna do a test run with a moon. I die cut kind of like a crescent moon from using the Tim Holtz Sizzix, I think it's Gatekeeper maybe. I'll leave the information down below. I've grabbed some dandelion alcohol ink to ink it so we can have a yellow moon, and this is aluminum tape, so it will be sticky backed so we can stick it in place if we decide to. Let's see how the moon looks if we do part of the crescent showing, I think. I kind of like that. I think maybe shifting it over. We're just gonna try sticking this sucker down and hoping we get it in about the right spot. All right, let's double check that that's the right spot. All right, it's down now. So there we go. Got a bit of a moon showing. So I think we're gonna go ahead and glue this in place. And I'm gonna use Aleene's The Ultimate. And we're just gonna glue it down because it's gonna be too much of a hassle to try and lift it up and put it back down. All right, let me hold this up for a sec so I can make sure I don't have glue showing in a lot of places I don't want glue showing. pretty good. Now, I don't like the floor as is, and this is some like moss ribbon that I got at Michael's who knows how long ago. So we're just gonna cut this off, and then I'm gonna have a serious cleanup on my desk because it shedded everywhere. Let's trim it back, and hopefully I guesstimated right where it needs to be trimmed. So that's gonna go like so. And I didn't quite get it all the way in the back, but that's all right because our broom should hide that. And it does. And let's get our cauldron over, because our lights are gonna go in our cauldron like so. And let's turn this so it's facing the right way. And now what I'm gonna double check is that it still shuts. And it does. All right, let's tip our broom the right way. Turn off our lights because, again, they're blinding me. Glue this piece down. And I've got another thing of the ultimate, so we're just gonna use that. I think I'm gonna add a couple clamps. Hold that in place. And hold it in place over here so it stays in place. Cauldron's gonna go there. We've got our mushrooms. Ah! I just knocked over the bubbles that are gonna go in our cauldron. Should have left some lights over here. I'm kind of regretting that. I forgot that I wanted to put some lights behind the mushrooms, but it is definitely too late now. I have the mushrooms. I also have, I think I'm gonna break that and have that there. One of the skulls nestled in there with some more moss and some of the flowers. Let's see. Let's go ahead and see if can we just snap it? No. Oh, yes I can. Those in and have the skull, and we'll put some flowers there and up there. So we're getting to the finishing touches time. Now what we need to do is work on what's gonna cover that, and I really wish I could get it. All right, let's take that off it for a sec, and I'm gonna put some glue back here, try and get it to stay upright a little bit better. And set this whole thing aside, let everything dry, and while it's drying, I'm gonna show you what I'm thinking for in front of, to cover up our lighting. Okay, so to go in front of our light piece, I've got, this has got some a strip off some coffee dyed, like regular paper. I rolled it up. This is the length of the whole light thing, and I realized these are just too long of scrolls, so we're gonna cut those in half. And I'm gonna see, I think I've got like random thread like lying around here somewhere that we can use to tie our scrolls closed. Look at that, some random purple thread. And I gotta go deal with the dog. All right, let's take some thread. This is like a tangled up little knot. I am gonna put a dot of glue inside the roll, just to kind of keep it mostly closed up. We're gonna do some grunging to it in a sec. Trim off some of the excess. So there we've got a scroll, and let's tether our edges a little. And then let's take our brown dauber and our scorched timber Here we go. We got a nice little grungy scroll to go on our shelf. So I'm going to do that for all 4 of these guys. I don't think you need to see me do that 4 times. Now, I also want to add some books to the shelf. And this is a digital by Giggle Glitter GFX. And I think it's the Dark Academia, I think is the name of the kit. And so I printed them out 2 to a page. And I flipped them before printing so that they'd be mirror images of each other. And I also did another page from the kit that has the spines of books on a shelf to create the spine for our foam mini books. And I printed it out on a fairly lightweight paper, so we're gonna reinforce our book covers. Oh, they might be a little too tall. And let's go ahead and do this. And I'm just kind of rough cutting the spine and then some, because I'm gonna want to glue that on like that. This will make sense eventually. All right, now we're going to add glue here. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the bit we cut off. I think that's close enough height-wise, especially since I think what we're gonna do is glue it towards the top and maybe hack off the bottom to make this a little shorter. And what we're gonna do is stick it on like so, fold it over, and we're just gonna keep going back and forth to create a faux book. Gonna trim that down a little bit. I am going to try and get this lined up a little bit because that went a little wonky. We're gonna glue. Longer than this one. All right. So we're just gonna lop off the bottom there. And there we go. We've got our faux book. Now you can glue it all together closed, or you can leave it so that it opens. I'm probably gonna glue them closed. And then I'm gonna take scorched timber. So that's probably something to do before gluing it all together. I may, for the next ones, add a little grunging to the paper before folding it all up, because that'll help with the final look. Let's glue that down and that down. And there we go, we've got a book. Banging up the corners a little bit. So what I'm gonna do is, we've got that. I'm gonna pile the books on top. And then for the scrolls, that glue dot, like I think I may add a second glue dot just to level this thing out. I'm gonna glue the scrolls, probably debating this. All right, first let's add another glue dot because that wonkiness is driving me crazy. That's better. I think I'm gonna glue the scrolls to each other Then possibly glue at the very top because we don't want to interfere with the ability to open this up and replace the batteries. So, and then stack books on top. So we definitely need to make some more books. Basically, we just want to disguise the top. Let's go ahead and glue the mushrooms in. Trying to decide what I can stick behind there to prop that up. I'm also gonna glue the bones in and the skull. All right, so that's working okay for me. Let's see if we can shift him forward a little more. I like those. That's gonna work, assuming those mushrooms glue into place. All right, I need to leave them to like dry. I am going to work on finishing the scrolls and the books that are gonna go on here, and then we'll come back and start putting some finishing touches on, I think. So, all right, I'll be back. Okay, so I have finished making all of our little books. We've got crunchy pages all around. And then that guy. And we're at kind of like final assembly time. Oh, and I made a couple extra scrolls because I realized I didn't have enough to cover what I needed to cover. And I dyed a few more baubles because I realized I didn't have enough of those to cover what I needed to cover. So what I want to do, let's tip this on its side for a sec, is I realized that my shelf isn't deep enough to stack the scrolls in front of this without gluing and all of that. So what I'm gonna do is I've got a piece of brown cardstock just cut down to kind of cover, and I'm gonna fold it over like so, and then have to trim it down because I don't want it hanging over the edge of the shelf. But let's double check where we need to cut. Push it back in. Stick it on its little Velcro dots. Actually, not much. So I'm just gonna take a sliver off. So that's gonna go there. I'm gonna glue it to the back of the battery pack. Kind of straighten that up a little bit, a little wonky. Works, and that'll cover up our battery pack so you can't see it. We're gonna glue our scrolls to the front, so it looks like they're kind of just barely on our shelf. So we're gonna do this. So that's gonna go there. I'm just gonna put a little glue on there, and that won't interfere with opening the battery pack up because I'll be able to still pull it out. And let's add more glue again. Still be able to because there's nothing glued to the battery pack part. So let's tuck our battery pack back in. I'm gonna need to leave that to let it dry. Like, I just need to leave this alone so it will dry. Let's glue again. But you can still, uh-oh. Well, it looks like I may be changing out the batteries because it's not lighting up. Yeah, but those batteries are dead. I am gonna have to change out the batteries on this. All right, and then what we're gonna do is pile some books on our shelf as well. We've got books on our shelf. Next up, I want to do our cauldron. And what I want to do is kind of stick them in, glue them together, but not glue them to the cauldron so that we can pile them on top of the lights. Ugh, these are not gonna cooperate, are they? They're just like rolling around on me. It's gonna be one of those days. All right. All right, I think I'm gonna let that pile, and I still have a few more, dry and see how it's looking before we try and do any more. I want to hang a spider coming down from the top, and this is a charm by Tim Holtz, an Idea-ology, I believe. And I am gonna use fishing line because that stuff disappears. So I'm gonna grab a piece of the fishing line. What I'm gonna do is string our spider on. And this is monofilament fishing line, 8 pounds, and I've had it forever, and it's great for doing stuff like this where you want to have something dangling and you don't want it to be visible that it's dangling. Let's go ahead and put a couple knots in. And then let's decide where we want him hanging from and where we want him hanging to. I think I want to go about there. So what I'm going to do is put a little bit of glue down, but I'm also going to grab a piece of tape and put tape over it because that will help us keep the line secure better than just with the glue, and it also holds it in place while the glue is drying. So I'm gonna put a dot of glue about there. I'm gonna trim off my excess fishing line. Which I think I'll set him about there. I'm gonna put the tape on the line. And do that, and then trim off my excess fishing line. And then when I stand it up, my spiders, I'm gonna adjust a little bit because he was hanging too far back, so that he hangs out a little bit. I don't know how well you can see because when I tilt it like this, he lies flat. And I'm not too worried about the tape showing or anything like that, and I just pulled it out completely because I realized where I had it taped was not gonna have, he was gonna be flat against the wall, and I don't necessarily want that, so let's try that again. And I'm gonna cut it a little thinner so that he hangs out a little bit away from the wall. Let's put a little glue just to reinforce everything. And then I'm gonna stick, ooh. Yes, it's definitely gonna be one of those days. I'm like, I'll be able to finish this up because my dad's coming over before he gets here, and yeah, not happening. All right, let's tip it on its side, stick that down, and we're gonna leave it alone for now. And what we need to do is add some cobwebs. I want some cobwebs here and in that corner as well. And I just have some cheesecloth that I dyed with Distress Inks. And you of course could use Tim Holtz Mummy Cloth, would work great for this as well, which I have and I have yet to use. I think because I have so much cheesecloth. And then we'll tuck some in amongst our mushrooms and such over there, and possibly a little in that corner to cover up. There's some glue that shows. Okay, so I went ahead and changed the batteries and the lights and figured out in putzing around that there's something loose back there. And so I've got to figure out how to fix the lights. So I think what I'm gonna do is open things up a little more. And I figured this out after I changed the battery, of course. I think the problem is, here's the connector, and yeah, something's coming, is loose. All right, I'm gonna put a little tape up here to hold that piece in place. Then we're gonna see if we can put the stuff back in the hole, if that's gonna work. All right, lights are still working. Whew, everything, lights are not working anymore. Okay, lights are working. Gonna see if we can disguise all of that mechanism. This is gonna go like so. That's gonna stay there-ish, hopefully. I'm gonna try using the Elaine's The Ultimate, because my art glitter glue did not stick. So we're gonna try doing this. And put that on like so. All right, let's put our books on the shelf and see if that's gonna hide our wires. Because now it's pushing it like way out. Like this shelf is just, I'm so not happy about this. All right, we're gonna try putting a hole in the wall up here. And I'm gonna use a blade and just be very careful so that we can hopefully tuck that behind so that this can be a little bit better. And there we go. We have a removable wall flap. That's the solution. Let's tip it a little bit and see what it looks like if we put our jar back on over here, and let's fix those lights that got, that light that got a little out of sorts. You know what? That works. The lights are working. Let's turn them off. That's not off. That's off. Okay. Part of me wants to like remove the Velcro dots because I don't think we need them and they're just not working great. So let's try doing that because I'm not loving the way it's like they're sitting up. So real-time problem solving here. That seems to be working a little bit better. Let's just make sure our lights are still working. Yes. Okay. Okay. So let's see. We were putting, actually, I'm gonna do hot glue right now because I would like to unplug it. Set that aside. Got my hot glue gun because what I want to do is the candle's like really kind of wonky and not sitting nicely on its own. So I'm gonna do a little glob of glue here. Kind of set it in there. And I also want to have like a little drip, but trying to do that off the edge of the thing, you know, gravity, not so much. I also want to create a bottom for this guy because this guy does not like to stand very well. It's standing perfectly now, but on the shelf it doesn't. So I'm gonna do a line of glue for this to create hopefully a slightly wider base that will enable it to sit. And this is a silicone mat, so the glue's just gonna come right off it. That's, see, and so this hopefully will sit on the shelf and stay standing up right now. And this, oh, trim that away, will hopefully stand better on its shelf. And then we have the little glue dot. Okay, I'm gonna unplug my glue gun and get back to putting in our cobwebs, which is where we left off when my dad showed up. Spider web up in that corner, our spider dangling down. I wanted to put a spider web up in the corner here. There we go. We've got spider webs all around. Now I've got the flowers and moss that I want to stick around. So let's do some of that. And I think I'm trying to decide if I want to stick some cheesecloth to disguise the lights back there a little better. Let's see what a little bit of cheesecloth over the lights looks like. So here's the thing. What I want to do is, I've got this moss that I bought at the craft store. So I want to add some moss down there, some flowers, probably some cheesecloth, but I really need to stand it upright so I can do this, and there's no good way for me to film that. So I think what I'm gonna have to do is stop the video, put the stuff in, and then show you what I did. Okay, so as you can see, I've done all the finishing touches, and this is what our finished witch slab looks like. I added moss and the paper flowers over here. I added a little bit of paint to the drips on the candle that we created with the hot glue, and to blend it in so it matched up with the rest of the candle. I added moss in various spots on the background where the light was kind of glowing through. I added flowers and moss and some of the cheesecloth down at the bottom as well. So that's what that looks like. And I did add, on top of our stack of books, I did add the pumpkin, and I used just a little bit of the moss and a twig from the moss to give it a stem, and I added a little paint to grunge it up a little bit so it blended in better with our scene. And here, let me turn out the light so you can see the lovely glow. So there's all of our lovely glowing bottles. So that's all for today. If you enjoyed this video, please do all the things that lets YouTube know you enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave me a comment down below. Thanks for joining me, and happy crafting.